now it's time for public comment. Anyone who's in the audience, now is your opportunity to speak. I ask that you come up to the front table here, state your name and address for the record. Speakers will be limited to 2 minutes to deliver their comments. Kevin will keep track of the time. At 1:45, he'll raise his hand, and I ask that you wind up your comments at that time. Those speaking are asked to conduct themselves in a respectful manner as they deliver their comments. Audience members are asked to refrain from reacting to comments. The City Council will not respond directly to comments in this venue or take immediate action in response to them. So with that, the floor is open. Anyone who wishes to speak, now is your opportunity. Mr. Wasson.
Roger Wasek, 646 East Vine Street. How many here did their homework and watched the 2015 PBS presentation, The Ethics of Cybersecurity? How many here did the second part of the homework and wrote their U.S. senators, their U.S. representative, and the president with the recommendation we establish a cyber force like China, Russia, etc. already have? In the Ethics of Cybersecurity, Admiral James Stavridis said the 911 of cyber terrorism would be taking down the electric grid. Realize there is no economy without the electric grid. Owattonna's Economic Development Director, and indeed everyone without the electric grid would have nothing to do. After the last Owatonna Public Utilities Commissioners meeting, I asked Roger Werheim, Owatonna Public Utilities manager, do we have enough backup to keep the lights on if the grid goes down? Thank you.
Thank you, Roger. Anyone else wish to speak this evening? Yes, sir.
Good evening, Matt Sennett, 2519 Stony Creek Drive, here to talk this evening about just some reading that I was doing on the capital improvement plan for the city. Notice that in 2026, we have our neighborhood park out there, North Country Estates, up for discussion, which is fantastic. Just want to thank you for getting that on the plan for discussion. We've been waiting for 6 years for something to happen out there, so really appreciate you all putting attention to that. Also, while reading the capital improvement plan, I didn't see the East Side Corridor on there, which was interesting because it was on the 2022 plan. So just curious about why such a large project wouldn't be on the capital improvement plan that I was reading, the most recent version. Also, just want to indicate that the studies for the East Side Corridor, that county highway east of town, is still underway. Several alternatives are being discussed and reviewed as part of that. Would ask that serious consideration be given to moving it a little further away from the neighborhood instead of where it's currently being planned for, and that's 15 feet from my neighbor's kitchen window and next to the neighborhood of 150 homes, which has no place for a county highway there. So appreciate in advance you all being willing to look at the alternatives for that East Side Corridor when that study comes back and the alternatives do as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else wish to speak this evening? Yes, ma'am.
Melissa Zimmerman, 2525 Stony Creek Drive. I want to talk about something a little different tonight. I saw there was a proclamation to make June 13th Pride Day. Thank you for doing that. I am not directly a member of this community, but I have many friends and loved ones that are. This past weekend, Rainbowtonna held their large event in Darts Park. There is another group that affiliates themselves with a Baptist church out of Northfield that closely follows Rainbowtonna and makes a point to show up to every one of these events. They are oppositionally opposed, and they make it known. Freedom of speech, right? I understand that. However, based on videos of past gatherings and for what's coming out from this last gathering, they are making threats and harassing Rainbowtonna. That's not freedom of speech. They are doing it to people that walk by, including children, to the point of telling people to unalive themselves. When this was reported to the police, they said there wasn't much they could do in fear of being sued. While I can understand freedom of speech, threats and harassment, again, are not freedom of speech. Suicide is the second leading cause of death in children ages 10 to 14, and the third leading cause of death in those 15 to 24. The LGBTQ community is 4 times more likely to attempt suicide than their peers because of the way they are treated and the stigmas. One suicide attempt every 45 seconds. If you have never had a child that has been hospitalized for a mental health crisis, please consider yourself lucky. It is not a position any parent wants to be in, and it's simply to save their life. I know people that have had their child hospitalized multiple times before the age of 10. Rainbowtonna is about inclusivity, a place for people that don't fit in elsewhere to feel accepted. They need to be better protected because these threats and harassment will directly lead to suicide attempts, simply because someone is not willing to take the time to understand and tear down stigmas. Regardless of your beliefs, Rainbowtonna is made up of people like you and me. They deserve a happy life too. Thank you.
Thank you. I see you coming.
Can I get an extra 2 minutes for the last meeting missed with a twisted?
I know that works.
I don't know if we can bargain that way, but yeah. Good try, Gary.
Gary Jones, 995 Ridge Road. My 2-minute deer presentation tonight has some food for thought on the archery hunt. However, not all food tastes good, so I hope this is okay. I have stated before that a deer plan contains a count, a map of auto collisions with deer, and a list of the defoliation complaints. With those 3 items, you have a very solid case as to whether we need to do this at all, and even more important, where it should be done. My family are avid park goers. We've visited every park in Owatonna, and I can say from firsthand experience, they are very different in terms of terrain and development. A lot of the parks involved in the archery hunt are remote, like Cashman's, Noss, and Hammond. I can't even get through them with a scooter. But then included in the hunts are Mineral Springs and Manthe, fully developed parks with playgrounds, families sledding, disc golf, and ball diamonds. Now, I have seen deer often at Darts, Morehouse, and Gainey, but those parks are not included in the hunt. I almost always see deer in Gainey when driving through close to sunset, yet why don't we hunt there? There are deer there. Well, your first impression would be, well, you fool, there are houses right there. Yet if you placed a bow hunter on the roof of the pavilion at Gainey Park for 8 weeks, the bow hunter would be 219 feet from the closest home, where a deer stand at Manthe is only 120 feet from a home on 19th Street Northeast, and a stand at Mineral Springs is only 130 feet from a house on Oakview. Now look how close the hunter at Gainey Park would look to homes on Selby, but the stands at Manthe and Mineral Springs are much closer. A compound bow and arrow, in the event of a miss or mistake, could find their way to a home with some ease. That is the distance. That is the distance to the house, not just the yard. It would actually be safer at Gainey to hunt than Mineral Springs or Manthe because there's no chance for ricochet. When we met with DNR officers at Mineral Springs and Manthe, they were concerned about the trees with DNR that could produce a ricochet of the arrows. An arrow glancing off a tree would probably not go through the wall of a house, but could definitely injure a disc golfer or a dog walker. My plea is to have a plan that proves this needs to be done, and if you're going to proceed without a plan, please be judicious in where you hunt. I ask that you stay in the remote parks with rugged terrain, close them for 2 weeks, and please eliminate Mineral Springs that hasn't had a deer taken out for 3 years. It is not closed for the season. It barely slows down. You have it in your power to keep disc golfers and sledders and dog walkers safe from a tragedy. All you have to do is nothing.
Thank you, Gary. Anyone else in the audience wish to speak this evening?
Annie hasn't been here in a while.
She's sitting there pretty patiently.
She's, yeah.